I want to share this breakthrough with you that a client of mine had because it is so powerful. And I see this so often with women and with anyone who has just kind of attached to this idea of, there being the good food and the bad food, and there's the right diet and the right way to eat, and all of these very black and white rules around food and all of these diet culture myths have created so much fear and so much shame around eating and around eating food. And so we're sitting in session, and she's talking about how she really struggles because once she eats something that she perceives as bad, then it just triggers this screwed effect and she binges and she says, I'll just start over tomorrow because tomorrow I'm going to be perfect. And it's this black and white thinking that if I eat this way, I will get these results. But if I have something that's not on this plan or isn't perfect or isn't clean or isn't whatever kind of diet tribe that it's associated with, then it triggers this response of overeating because, well, I might as well overeat because I just went off plan anyway. And when I started asking more questions to kind of get to the root of this, what it came down to was when she had gained weight as a young girl because she would be staying with her grandmother, and part of how she would basically soothe herself because her mother wasn't there and she was lonely was eating. And she would go to the corner store and she would buy food and she would sit and she would eat. So she gained quite a bit of weight over the summer. And her mother comes to pick her up and she sees she's gained weight, and her mother is extremely obsessed with weight, etc., and not in a healthy way. And so she takes her to a diet clinic. And in the diet clinic, they basically, at a very young age, tell her, these are the foods you can eat, these are the bad foods, these are the good foods. And, so she learned from a very young age that there were foods that she could eat and they were safe foods. And then there were the bad foods. And if she ate the bad foods, it became like, I'm bad. And so, what this belief carried forward and what this story did, the foundation of not only learning to self medicate with food, which is very, very common, but then that also then like transferring over to this idea that if I eat this food, I'm good. If I eat this food, I'm bad. And then that created this chronic push and pull cycle because she could never be perfect. So she would consistently sabotage herself. And the only way that she could really stay consistent was if she did something really, really extreme. But then once she went off of whatever that extreme approach, off track of whatever that extreme approach was, that spiraled into a binge cycle. And then we go through this cycle over and over again. And this is what I see with all these restrictive diets and all these unnecessary rules, is that it actually creates that cycle of binging and restricting. Because the truth is that the nutrition science is extremely clear. There is no perfect diet. There is no magical macro ratio. There is no fattening food. You don't have to count grams of carbs or grams of fat to lose weight. Our bodies are extremely complex and dynamic and adaptable. And when we establish an energy deficit from a healthy foundation, we lose body fat, even if that energy deficit includes foods like having a slice of pizza or having a cookie. And I'm not saying that's the foundation, but in moderation within the context of that calorie deficit. And the thing is that we shouldn't even be going into a calorie deficit until we have that foundation built. We understand how much food our body actually needs. And then from that point, once we are regulated, once we are eating enough real whole food, we know how to enjoy treats in moderation, we're exercising consistently, we're practicing mindful eating, intentional eating, awareness, and really basically forming that relationship with our body that's coming from self-care and compassion. Once we set that foundation and we heal the emotional relationship with food, now we can actually move into a calorie deficit. But if we don't start with that foundation, then anything we try to execute will most likely fail, because you can't build a strong home on a weak foundation. And dieting, weight loss is a skill, and it's a skill that needs to be learned, because we are definitely not taught anything in the realm of what healthy, regulated eating is in this culture. And so I encourage you, if you have been struggling with your weight, if you've been struggling going on and off diets, or maybe you're trying the new hot GLP ones or whatever it is, and you just can't seem to get a grasp on how to make something work for your body, I've linked my new blog post in the description. If this resonates, I would love you to check it out. It is a long read, but it is very powerful, and it just might give you that aha moment. And I really hope this video was helpful. And if you would like to connect, my website is linked in my bio. And I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and I look forward to connecting with you next time.